Well, tell me a little bit about how you're dealing with this pandemic, with the coronavirus situation. I know that for some musicians, it's hard not to be able to perform. How are you dealing with this?
I think for everybody, it's especially hard on musicians because it seems that in these last few years, it's become harder and harder to get paid for what we do because people now completely accept the idea of either getting their music for free from YouTube or from getting their music from the streaming services, which pay very, very, very little to the artists. I mean,
Yeah.
an outrageously small amount. So you can't really make money from those places. And a lot of people very dependent on playing live shows. So starting in March, obviously that became impossible. Truthfully, it's a big hardship for everyone that I know, including people who you would never suspect that it would affect. People you would think, oh, well, they have a lot of money, but you know, everything is relative. If you have a lot of money, you usually have a lot of bills also. I don't know very, very rich people living in very small apartments, so
Yeah.
it's all relative. And of course, we feel worse for the people who are that close to living on the street. But there is a lot of that happening. And uh, they have to let these places open again. I know that it's very scary, and the pandemic has made people very, very paranoid and afraid to be with other people. But um, you know, I, there's so many questions involved with it that I don't want to get into because we're all just sitting here guessing from the things that we read, and you read something completely different every 5 minutes about if it's better to be locked down, if it's better to be just let it spread and go away on its own. The truth is none of us knows the answer to that. But especially here in Argentina, the economy is always
Yeah.
right on the edge of disaster. So I think we have to let places open up again. I think we have to. Otherwise, the results of the lockdown and the quarantine are going to be much worse than the pandemic itself.
Mhm.
And I think people are really starting to feel that now because we're coming up on 7 months.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I haven't made 1 peso in 7 months, and even though maybe I had a little bit of money in the bank in March, that's all going away. And I have a lot of projects waiting to happen. I was very lucky that this record, Muy Crudo, was finished in December. So I was waiting until after the Christmas and the holidays ended to release it. And then, of course, came the quarantine. So I waited and waited and waited, and now finally I can't wait anymore, so I've put it out. But on the second day of the quarantine was the day of the quarantine was the second day of doing the final mixing for the new Guasanas record that I'm producing. And so we had to stop because we could not be in the recording studio anymore mixing the record. So there is an incredible Guasanas record, complete except for the mixing, that we were all so excited to have people hear because it's an amazingly great record. And as soon as we're allowed to all be together again, it'll be finished in 2 weeks. And also La 25, I'm producing another record for them, but we have just to wait because we can't be together.
That's right.
So, it's a big
Well,
problem.
you mentioned Muy Crudo, and when I've been listening to the album, and it took you I mean, it has a long recording process. What can you tell me about it? About the recording process, the writing process?
The whole thing actually, it was, as far as recording and writing, it's the shortest record I've ever done. The whole record was written just a couple of months after my divorce. So I had a lot of inspiration.
I
Uh,
understand now. Yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of angry feelings, and I had also a lot of happy feelings of freedom. So all of those are in the lyrics and in the spirit of the record. Also, it's my first solo record where the band and myself were all sitting together in one room in the recording studio for every song. And you know, that's where the title of the record, Muy Crudo, you know, in English, very raw,
Yeah.
can not only mean how you cook the steak, it can also mean the condition of things, you know. And I was trying to describe my emotions and my feelings and my nerves, and also the recording process, because I wanted it to be not very produced, you know, very raw, you know. And I know in Castellano, the meaning is a little bit different, but that's how I meant it.
And well, listening to the album, it has like a different vibe, some personal style, and maybe it was because of that female touch that Silvana and Luli gives to the band.
If they're
How do
women,
you?
oh
Yes.
my God, I never noticed. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
What can you tell me about it? That connection that you have with them.
I don't know, you know, I mean, I tell this story a lot, but I hired Luli. I got Luli for my band before I knew she was a woman. Um, because when I first came here to live, well, before I was actually living here in 2009, um, I came down to do some solo shows, and the person who brought me down here said he would get a band for me. I said, okay. And I got here and I did one rehearsal and I fired everybody because it wasn't right. So I said, please, let's have some auditions. So the next day I went to a big rehearsal place, and I heard the door was closed and I heard this great, great bass playing from outside of the room. So I never saw who the player was. And I asked, I said, is that person here for me? They said, yeah. I said, oh, great. You know, so I listened for about 5 minutes and I thought, wow, whoever that is, they have the job. Whoever that is, because it was fantastic. And I opened the door and I found 18-year-old Luli sitting there with her great smile and, you know, her great vibe and beautiful woman. And well, she was a teenager still. And I went, no, this is impossible. It's impossible. Uh, and we've been playing together ever since then. I mean, I just said, that's it. She's the one. It was perfect. And, you know, she was in a Led Zeppelin, all women Led Zeppelin cover
Yeah.
band with Sylvana. So that's how I heard Sylvana. I went to see that band one night in McKenna. And the second I heard Sylvana playing, I said, wow, that's amazing. And they play so well together. So I got Sylvana in the band, and it's been that way almost 11 years now, just the three of us.
And well, having a strong rhythm section, it's important for the kind of music that you play because it gives you
They're very
freedom
strong.
to play with the guitar.
Yeah, well, you know, playing in a trio is a very, very special thing. And not everyone can do it. You have to, I always say that it's important to play with the silences and play with the air surrounding you than it is to actually play your instrument, because three people can either sound very lonely and not great, or it can sound like a nuclear explosion, you know, I mean, but that has to do with the three brains kind of all thinking around each other. And, you know, you always know it when you sit and talk with people. The three of us, when we're on the road, we never shut up. We're always exchanging ideas. We're always talking very quickly. We're always up, 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 up. And it's the same when we're playing. It's exactly the same. The second we begin to play, it's just an explosion. And it's been that way really since the first day, you know.
What can you tell me about the guests of the album?
There's only one.
Yeah.
There's only one, and it's Stacy Michelle, and she's been my friend, and I've been working with her for 20 years. She is the singer with Kid Rock, and also she sings with Lynyrd Skynyrd. And I've done many different records with her. I've always called her as a producer. I've always called her to sing on many different projects that I've done. Willie Nelson and Jerry Lee Lewis and lots of different people. She is my favorite female voice. I just love her voice. I love that really great, scratchy rock and roll voice. You know, she's the closest thing to Steve Marriott. I don't know if you know who Steve Marriott was.
From Small Faces.
Small Faces and Humble Pie, who I think was the greatest rock and roll singer. For me, the greatest rock and roll singer ever. He was my favorite. I saw him live 40 times. I wish he was still around doing it. But for me, Stacy is the closest thing to Steve Marriott I have ever heard. You know, so she's been on all of my solo records. I always get her in to sing one or two songs. You know, it's really it's an honor for me to have her sing with. It's also very difficult because you know, the one thing that I'm maybe a little bit shy about is singing. I do my best. I don't think I'm a great singer, but I enjoy doing it, you know. And to have to sing with Stacy, for me, takes a lot of, you know, you take a deep breath and you go, okay, let's do it, you know, because she's so great. And you know, as if you know, Jimmy Page walked in the room and I was going to play guitar with him, you know, it'd be that same kind of take a deep breath and just go for it, you know. So she's the only guest on the record, you know. I have I fell in love with this this great blues artist who just died last year, named Leo Bud Welch, and he put out a record a few years ago where he used the little chorus singers from his church in Mississippi. And at the time I was writing this record, I was listening to that record over and over and over again. So I really got it into my head that I wanted to use a chorus of female singers on this record a lot. And they're on, I think, 7 or 8 tracks, and they're 4 really great singers here in Argentina who sing perfect English. I was so shocked, with no accent. They sound like they could be, you know, 4 women in Mississippi. It's just wonderful. But other than Stacy and them, those are the only people aside from me and Luli and Silvana. I'm the only man on my record. I'm the only man. For all the feminists and all the women should love this record, I am the only guy.
That could be a good marketing strategy.
Well, you know, it's up to you to tell the people.
Thinking about the recording process, do you consider yourself a studio guy when you record the songs, or, I mean, you just recorded the way that you're going to perform them live?
Well, I'm going through that problem right now, because on September 25, we are doing a live streaming show. Mm-hmm. And I am right now, as I'm sitting here with the guitar, trying to figure out how to play those songs from the record with just the three people, because obviously I put a few extra things on the record, you know, a rhythm guitar and a solo guitar. You know, I tried to keep it muy crudo,
Yeah.
but I added a few extra things. And it's very difficult, especially since I'm also a record producer. My tendency is to want to make it sound as beautiful and as great as possible. And if that means doubling the guitar or doubling the voice, sometimes that's just what you do. Or if it means one more little guitar to make it a little bit different in the last chorus, you know, that's what you do to make a great record. So I guess it's not a matter of being a studio guy, it's a matter of also being your own producer. So you have to kind of, as much as I wanted it to be a very basic record, you also have to try to make a great record. And for me, sometimes doing those little things make the difference between a record that, you know, halfway through the record, maybe you get a little bored, and a record that keeps your interest the whole way through. And that's always my objective, is to make a record that are always new little things happening. So people go, oh, I'm not going to shut this off. Wow, what is that? Oh, what? That's a cool sound. Oh, you know, and sometimes, you know, you have to use the studio to the best that you can, you know. It's otherwise you should just go, you know, record in a club and make a live record. And those are great also. I will do that one day. That's kind of like what the streaming show is, you know. It makes me very nervous because it's live. It's live, you know.
What can you tell me about your romance with Argentina? How long have you been living here?
I've been living here for 11 years, and I came here, well, in 2009. I had a very, very crazy guy. He wrote to me on MySpace a very long time ago. MySpace. Yeah. And asked me if I was interested in coming here, if he booked some shows for me. I said, yeah, see what you can do. And so he booked, I don't know, 10 or 12 shows. And so I came down here and I saw how much people here loved rock and roll and loved guitars and loved the history of rock and roll and knew about what was a good guitar player and what was a bad guitar player, and had arguments about Hendrix or Page or Jeff Beck, or, you know, and just the passion people here felt about the same music that I love. And so I came down here and did those shows, and I went back to California. And just a few weeks after that, my friend Slim Jim Phantom, the drummer from the Stray Cats, he was doing a rockabilly tour in South America and asked me if I wanted to be the guitar player. I said, sure, great. Came back here again. I did some more shows with of my own after that tour was over. Then I reconnected with Juanse, who the only other time I had ever been here was in 1997, when Juanse invited me to help him present Espresso Bongo, his first solo record.
His solo, yep.
So I was here for about a week then. I didn't really get to know the country very much, but I reconnected with Juanse, and he invited me to play with Ratones at River Plate. And so I came back again, the third time, all in the same space of 6 months. And when I was heading home after that show, I thought to myself, boy, I'm working a lot in California. I have a very nice life, a Harley, a Mercedes, a house in Beverly Hills. But I was bored, you know. I kind of was like, you know, okay, I'll work on this movie or a TV show, or, you know, but it wasn't for me exciting anymore. And I came to Argentina and saw how exciting it was to be here playing with different musicians, and how the crowd reacted and the way people treated me. And so on the airplane going home, I said, you know what? I'm going to go live there. And I told some friends, and they said, you're crazy. What are you doing? You know, you're going down to that crazy country. No one, first of all, no one in the United States even knows where Argentina is. They all think it's Brazil. You know, they're like, oh, it's so hot there. I'm like, well, no, it's not the jungle. What are you talking about? You know, oh, you must love that hot weather. I was like, no, it's just, anyway. So I went home and I packed up my house and I leased it out to somebody, and I sold my Harley Davidson, I sold my Mercedes, and I came here. And really, I came here to play music. And it wasn't, I'm not running from the police, and I didn't come because of a woman. I came here to make music with people that were as emotional about the music as I am, which is fading away in the rest of the world. Those feelings in the rest of the world are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Rap, R&B, hip hop, trap, all these things are raising up, and good rock and roll with loud guitars is not the fashion right now, and it's getting smaller, except in Argentina. So I love it here.
I would like to talk about your musical career, on the rest of your projects. And well, it was I'm a television fan, so it was a surprise for some television fans when you joined the band, because your style was not supposed to be the right for the band. But then when I saw you live and saw you performing, your style was right for television. What was that situation for you? Was it hard to I mean, get that different sound playing with them?
No, because remember, I've been playing with Tom Verlaine for 40 years. I began playing with Tom in 1980. And so joining television in 2007, that just was the same thing. I've always played in that style. And also, you know, in New York, I was a session guitar player, sessions. So, and when you do that for a living, when you do 2 and 3 recording sessions every day, you must be able to play every style, and you have to be able to fit in. You cannot walk into every person's record and just play your session. Maybe if you're Slash or Eddie Van Halen, you're being invited to come in and be Slash or be Eddie Van Halen. Mm-hmm. But if someone is hiring you to play on all the tracks on their record, to sit in the recording studio for a week and record 15 songs with them, they want to be able to direct you, and you have to be enough of a schooled musician to be able to change the way you play according to the style of the artist, because it's very similar to being a producer. You have to, you're in the studio to make the dream of the artist come true. You're not there for yourself. You're there helping someone create their piece of art. So you know, in television, you know, the things that I did playing with Tom just continued. When I was playing with Tom, from 1980 to 2007, I never played a guitar solo with Tom. Never, not one single solo. And that's okay, because Tom Verlaine is one of the greatest soloists ever, ever. There is nobody like him. There is anybody who sounds like Tom Verlaine is imitating Tom Verlaine. You can't find anybody before him who sounded like that. Nobody. He's an original. And so for me to stand 8 feet away from him for all those years, I was very happy to play rhythm guitar and to hear what he was doing and work with him to make that even better. So the only reason I get to play solos in television is because it's television, and television is about two guitars playing together. So we that's how we changed it. You know, on the songs from Marquee Moon, I play all of Richard Lloyd's his solos, and then we have some new songs where I get to play also, because it's a band. You know, it's different. It's not supporting a solo artist.
Are you in touch with Tom? Are there any plans?
Sure,
I know that
all the time.
it's hard now to think about the future, but maybe you talk to him about it.
Well, we had to cancel a bunch of shows, obviously, because of the virus. But hopefully, when this all starts again, if they ever open the damn airport here, and I can go to, I can get on a plane and go to New York, we'll do some more shows. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, those guys are old, man. I'm the young guy in the band. You know, I'm only 64. You know, Tom is 70 now, 71. Fred is 72. So you know, everybody's getting up there. They don't want to be on the road, you know, for a month or 2 months at a time. But we will always go do 5 shows and 5 shows and 5 shows. That's the way we've been doing it for a while now. Mm-hmm. Hopefully there'll be a few more, because, you know, I'm going broke. We need to play. I need to earn some dollars so I can spend it in pesos.
Well, I was thinking about that connection that you mentioned with Tom and the guys and television as a band. Was it really different to play with Mick Jagger, for example, that it was like more of a session work? Or did you have any space for just putting your touch to the music?
Well, it started out, really the first time we played together was in the studio, because I went in to put some guitars on the Primitive Cool record. So that obviously, you know, he wanted me to do what I do on that record, and I did. So we didn't start out like, you know, that tour, the first tour that we did in Japan, you know, that, you know, like any tour, it's very much about playing what's on the records, because people are coming to hear that you know, you don't want to disappoint them, and you want people to have a great time, and that's what a live show is about, unless you're a jazz artist and people are coming to watch you improvise. So you know, that band was an incredible bunch of musicians, with Simon Phillips on drums, and Joe Satriani, and myself, and Doug Wimbish from Living Colour. And everyone was very, very capable of reproducing all the songs the way they were on the records, you know? So, so the studio was one thing. Doing the tours was very much like, learn what Keith did and play what Keith did. And, you know, and learn whatever was on, we were doing from mixed solo records, learn that and do what was on the record, because that's what a live show is about. But in the middle of all of that, after the Japanese tour, before the Australian tour, Mick and I, because we were great friends, we were always traveling together and always writing songs together, you know, the songs that became Wandering Spirit. So when we were doing that, of course, I was contributing whatever I had to contribute. So yeah, that's what that was like. But you know, the thing is, you always have to remember that all of these people, whether it's Mick or Jerry Lee or, you know, Tom, or, you know, we all started the same way as, you know, kids in our bedrooms, you know, practicing for hours and hours and hours. And, you know, so it's very important to not become starstruck, you know, not become like, oh my God, I'm playing with Mick Jagger. You just have to remember this is just another musician that began the same way, that is just trying to create something that will excite people And if you can just keep that in the very front of your head and then save those other thoughts for when you go home at night, like, oh shit, I can't believe I just did that. But, you know, in the front of your head, you have to remember, you know, these are musicians, you know, just musicians, people struggling to create something that will excite people around them and maybe make some money.
Which is the main advantage and the main disadvantage of being a session musician?
Mm. Well, I think a lot of session musicians would tell you the main advantage is that you get to sleep in your own bed every night, you know, because the alternative of being a touring musician, you have to really love that. You have to love the travel, and you have to love that life. You have to be a gypsy, you know. I've had lots of friends that have made both choices, and I myself in different years have made both choices, you know, like the thing is, back when being a session musician was a real thing, now it's not. It's nothing like it was now. There's really no such thing as a session musician anymore. There are people who get asked to play on a lot of records, but they're not really session musicians, not in the way it was. You know, these days you have to do everything to try to make some money. You know, I've always loved to travel, so I never have a problem with being in the band and getting on the road. Some people, they want to have families and they want to be at home, and they have a wife who would not be very happy to see their photo in a bar at 3 in the morning in a city that they're not in. So, you know, that creates a lot of problems. So they make the choice to, okay, I'll just be at home every night, you know, and go to the studio every day if it's possible, you know.
There are
It's a
some
different lifestyle.
there are some great musicians that are not so good record producers, because being a producer means having something extra. What's that thing that makes you a good producer?
Well, the reason I became a producer is because I just got, after doing so many records, I got tired of having to do the things that very bad producers asked me to do. And so I said, well, shit, I've just got to start doing this myself, because I actually thought I knew how to do it better than them. And I think that's the first thing that needs to happen. And I don't know if that's ego or if it's, you know what, I'm trying to look up, you know, at a certain age, you start forgetting names. So I was just trying to look up this one name. Hang on one second. You know, we all use Google as our memories now. This isn't live, is it? This is recorded?
No. It's
oh,
okay.
thank God. All right, hang on then. What was his name? He produced Elvis, and he produced, fuck. Well, anyway, I'm not gonna bore you by trying to look it up. The sun's going down. I had this really great producer. Now it's going to drive me crazy that I can't find his name, because he's such a well-known guy. Anyway, I was asking him at the very beginning, because I was tending to play guitar on everything that I produced. And I asked him his advice, because he was also a guitar player. And I asked him his advice to, he was a Nashville and a Memphis guy. And I asked him his advice, what I should do. He said, well, the first thing you have to do is to stop playing guitar on the records that you produce, because there's a very strange thing that happens when you psychologically, for the artist and the people in the band, when you cross over, when you go around to the other side of the glass in the recording studio, it changes everything. And there's something, you can steer the ship a lot better from the control room, you know. But as soon as you're out there sitting next to the drummer, then all of a sudden everyone is the producer. You know, you're not the producer anymore. Everyone, you know, you lose, I don't want to say your authority, because it should never be that way. You know, in the studio, if someone has an idea, I always try to allow every idea to be tried. But at a certain point, you have to say, stop, or that's the right one, or, you know, you have to have a little bit of an ego, enough of an ego to make that decision and to guide people, you know. And I think that just comes from having worked on thousands of records, you know, a lot of records, and to have the vision of knowing if someone does this thing, by the time the record is finished and you go to the mix, that thing is just not going to be good for the finished record. So you have to have, you can't be worried about my little guitar part. You have to be worried about literally what winds up on the CD. You have to think all the way down the line. You have to think about the mixing. You have to think about what happens to all these little elements when it's mastered, because every process changes everything, you know? Every process changes everything. And if you're not thinking, that's your job. Your job is to think of that, you know? So that's why sometimes when you try someone's idea and you have to say, look, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. People have to trust you that you're not just doing it out of ego. Oh no, he never wants to do my ideas. You know, I'm happy to get ideas from everybody, you know, and a great idea is a great idea. It doesn't matter who says it. But in my mind, that one little idea might be a good idea, but not a great idea for the whole record. And that's the thing that I'm always worried about, always thinking about, and always pushing for, is how is it going to be on someone's earbuds when they're riding their bicycle through Parque Palermo?
Do you remember any good experience when everything happens perfectly and everything flows in a recording studio? Any experience for you as a producer?
This Muy Crudo, this record has been, I think the word blessed is used too much, but at every occasion, something good has happened. You know, just something good has happened every single time. For instance, I was, just before I began to record it, I was producing a record for Daniel Osvaldo, the football.
Yeah, football player,
Yeah. So I was producing a record for his band. And the guys in his band, they wanted to record live in the studio. And I said, okay, you know, there's a lot of difficult things about doing that, but let's do it. So we did. And it takes a lot of experimentation. You know, where is good to put the amplifiers? Where is it good to put the drums? How do we keep so much guitar from going on the drum microphone? So all those kinds of things. So when we finally figured all that out, I booked the very next 3 days for myself. You know, because I always work with Alvaro Villagra at the Studio Abasto.
Yeah.
And I said, Alvaro, is anybody in here? I was like, oh, I should do this. So he said, no, there's nobody. It was the weekend. So I said, give me these 3 days. He said, okay. So I didn't change anything. I just left everything the way it was. Luli and Silvana came, and we just pressed record and started recording, and it was amazing because I didn't even really, the songs weren't even fully written. So a lot of those songs, they came to be in the studio, but it was because everything was set up, everything was ready to go. It had a great sound already. So we could be more free. There wasn't that day of, oh, where does the microphone go on the snare drum? And that, and usually at the end of that first day, you don't want to record anything because you're so tired of,
Yeah.
okay, hit the drum again, boom, 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 boom. No, move the mic. It's like, but we could just walk in, go, record, boom. And wow, magic. And all the little things have been very magical like that. Finding the chorus singers. I wound up just coincidentally going to the United States, and I wound up in Memphis, where Stacy Michelle lives, and I was only there for one day, and I called up my friends at Sun Studios, the original Sun Studios,
Yeah.
and said, "Can I use the studio tonight?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." I went in there that night. We recorded her vocals in Sun Studios. And so just little things, every little thing. For instance, they could have said no, or no, someone's using it, or she could have been on tour that day, or, anything could have happened. But every little thing has happened perfectly for this record. And now I'm talking to you.
Let's talk about the streaming show. Is it going
Okay.
to be the first show after the pandemic?
Yes.
So how are you feeling about it?
To be honest, I'm very nervous about it. We haven't played together. The last show we did together was Rockin' Baradero,
Yeah.
which was in February.
Mm.
So it's a very long time. I haven't been singing. I've been sitting in the apartment. Like it's very difficult to live in an apartment and be a rock and roll singer. Your neighbors will eventually.
Hard for the neighbors.
Oh my God! Especially now, everyone is home.
Yeah.
So used to be, you're a musician, you wake up, no one is home in their apartments, people are all at work, and there's those moments, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you can make some noise. Now everybody is home. So I've been trying, I figure, okay, 1 hour, I'll just sing the whole show. I make a lot of noise. I'm sorry, everyone in the building. And, but it's difficult. So we'll see. I'm excited to do it. I'm also very nervous about it. I hope it comes out great.
And the songs are going to be from Muy Crudo.
Well, we decided to not make this an actual presentation of the record.
I see.
For a lot of reasons, but because it's the first streaming show I've ever done, I've picked 1 or 2 songs from all of my records, and we will do 3 from Muy Crudo. Just to give people a little more idea of all my records, we thought that would be better when it comes, and also because we're doing it in a very nice recording studio. But the problem with that is that because of the protocols, we are only allowed to have a small amount of people in the recording studio. And we have 2 cameramen and a lighting man and 3 people in the band. And so I can't have guests. Normally I would call, I have some great friends, you know, to come in and sing or to come in and play guitar with me or play keyboards, but it's not possible. So I have two of the four chorus singers coming, which I really need to do some of the songs, but no keyboards, no second guitar, no nothing. And that's the part that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Because to really present Muy Crudo, I would like to have a couple of guest musicians, you know, and when we get to do it really live, I of course I will do that, you know.